عملنا نسال التيم ممبر انه امتى في لقاء مشاري، قلنا لسه مش متاكد برضه. العنوان بدا يكون نشوف اكثر من الاوبشنز الثانيه. احنا عملنا في تعاقد بيننا وبينكم بس مش صار وقعنا مع 25 ما نقدرش نطلع من هذا. بس العمل بيقولوا اذا في بريشر من الاداره عندهم انه لا لازم نتحرك، لازم نطلع باشياء. ما ينفعش انه نضل كل هالفتره من غير اي ايفنتات عم بتصير. فبس حبيت اعطيك خبر عن الموضوع هذا، ولو تقدر تخلي في هالشيء انه يعطينا ديتيلز عن اللقاء الجاي بفضل يكون سبتمبر، لانه فعليا الكلاينت عمال بيسلم عليه وبقدرش اياه يصير يحاول يضغط علينا باوبشنز ثانيه.
ካብ ሰላም መጻኹም ካብ ሰላም መጻኽን ኮራት ሓቲ ይቕኒ ለእግዚአብሔር ኣምላኽ ይኽብረለ ብጣዕሚ ለመስግን ደቅነይ ዌልካም ጋይስ ፕሊዝ ላይክ ሼር ሰብስክራይብ نرجع نلعب هون. Welcome guys, please like, share, subscribe. Welcome family. وشتي كعب سلامة خيابي. Welcome guys, please like, share, subscribe. Welcome family. Jody, kiran roll. Jody, and roll. Dulu kantina, dari mana? يوسف جاء.
However, this month, Pascal jumped in and he said that no, there is a part not delivered. So I checked with Regine again. She told me yes, there is a part of the content not delivered. So she was confused between what was delivered and what we invoice every month.
Hello, and this is correct because there is a line item that requires third-party cost that we deliver upon demand from the client.
Yes, exactly, and I don't want to do SAR again, so I deduct it now. And once we deliver, we will add the net revenue with the third party together.
100%
بس أنا متأكدة منه روبين، هل الرقم صح؟ يعني هل هذا اللاين ايتم قيمته 15,000
خليني افتح لك اياها سير.
لانه انا هذا اللي خايفه منه.
اعطيني دقيقه ضلك مع الخط.
اوكي نايس يس. وفواتير اذا بالنسي كمان.
بس في فرق بين 5000
ندور عليها.
في 5000 أوفر إنفويستين صح؟
هاي أوفر إنفويست. تدور عليها وين؟ أنا بقول لك شو افتح فواتير منير ما تنقل من الخمسة.
اسمعوا أنتوا ضايفين عندكم الرومانسية ولا لا؟
رومانسية سبتمبر هذا أوغست.
أوكي بس بتأكد يعني وصل لكم.
يس يعني رومانسية حنضيفها سبتمبر إن شاء الله.
أوكي.
يعني في سبتمبر حنضيفها.
لا في واحد الحين
لا ما عملت. أنا اللي بسوي هذا. بس بعمل دوبليكت ترى بفيد المشاريع.
طيب قد ايه طالع عندك انت الكورس تبعها هاي؟
ما عندي كوست لان هي ما اعطتني.
لا هي هيك لو وورد ادج بتروح زي ما هي. قد ايه هي طالعه عندك؟
15,000 بس انا مش متاكده من الرقم بصراحه لانه هي ما كثير كان سهل علي انا وباسكال.
خليني احاول اطلع لك اياها.
طيب بالنسبة لها for the previous month July, should I change it حسن Rubin or no? Because this is what I received from Lubin, 156. But this is not correct.
باسكال شو قال لك عنها السعر تبعها؟
أنا ما سألت باسكال عن جولاي بس هو حكى لي عن أوغست إنه في شيء ما عم بيتسلم. بس أنا رجعت فهمتني إنه كله تسلم.
لا هو في عندك فعليا شيء بنستعمل فيه ثيرد بارتي عشان يعمل لنا كونتنت وفي شيء بيستعمل عشان سي جي اي وما سي جي اي نجيب سي جي اي ارتست. بس اي دو بليف هي 15 هيك شيء وهي عباره عن 3 مرات اذا انا مش غلطان 4 سوري.
لا بالشهر 15.
لا هذا
يعني على
بالشهر 15 هذا عدد الكونتنت. انا بحكي لك على شو اسمه على اللي فيه ثيرد بارتي كوست مش بالشهر 15 بتكون غير. خليني اتفقد لك اياها. سير
No, there is. It should be less. 156 in July should be less. This is incorrect. But we did not know. This is a retainer. But what will happen? It will happen again. Once we have a third-party cost, we will not have a net revenue because it was already booked. I don't want to do that. I want to do it from the beginning. Remove the net revenue, remove the third party, and once they come, I book it together. Yani there is a month, maybe after 2-3 months, it will be not 156. It will be 165 because the difference here, it will be there. And there will be 2 third-party costs to cover this increase. It should be in each line item, third-party cost. But what happened that we did not deliver this part, so there is no third party. Exactly same case.
انت بدك اياها بالشهر؟ ما تعادل ال 10,900 حتكون.
يعني ازيد الرقم
يعني لا but you deducted from the monthly retainer. اذا انت المونثلي ريتينر عندك وين الشاشه ما يعادل 156 بدك تشيلي 10,900 منه و37 خلص خليها ناقصه 15,000.
خليها 15
خليها 15 لانه في ممكن additional third party cost مثل يعني applications ثانيه ولا شيء.
طيب في عندنا ال 156,000 تاع جولاي
هذه
اعدلها ولا ما؟
بتقدري تعدليها ولا نحجزها خلاص؟
I can or no? So you mean I put a third party cost here, but there is no third party.
But there wasn't any cost. We cannot book it.
It was not delivered.
خلص add a note to it انه في 15,000 should be deduct should be a credit note for the client.
It's حسن شو ولا لا؟ Yes or no?
What I'm is like
Hassan, it's easy. There is a 15K.
156 is 15K is for 1 month or
156 as a retainer every month.
15K is
However, there is 15K difference. This was not delivered in July,
okay.
and there is no third party cost on this.
No
So
third party.
later,
Okay.
yes,
Great.
later we will deliver this part, and we will have a third party cost. But however, the net revenue is already booked here. Same case of SAR.
What is the visibility for third party cost here?
It's the same number, 15.
15 visibility or monthly cost?
On monthly,
On monthly.
yes.
So for the July, we are not adjusting.
I'm not sure. I'm asking you. I just hear that from Pascal this month that was not correct. The July number was not correct.
So this is going to be adjusted from July onwards.
But guys, I have to jump on another call. Can we, since this is an issue that we have to deal with later on.
طب خلص أصلاً we finished روبين.
يلا thank you guys.
Nothing delivered.
لا لسه it's new. هيبدأ من سبتمبر. يلا.
Thank you. Bye.
يلا باي.
ካብ ሰላም መፅኹም ካብ ሰላም መፅኹም ኮራጅ ኻቲ ይቕኒል እግዚኣብሔር ኣምላኽ ይኸረሊ ብጣዕሚ እየ ለመስግን ደቂኒ ሽክራን ቴንኪዩ
لبنان تبا لا
يا أخي أنت this is all happening because you're being bullied for the fact that you don't listen when someone talks to you.
طب انا هلا I'm fully listening now. I'm always listening.
But it was Adam's conversation to have.
Fuck Adham.
I'm not privy to that information.
Adham eats penis. And penis because you know why penis? Because penis is small. Cobra's here. Fuck. Hi Cobra.
Guys, just can you hear me well enough? Because
Yes.
I have horrible internet right now.
By the way, how's the internet in Lebanon?
Internet in Lebanon is fine. I'm not at home. I'm not at my station. I'm in an Airbnb bedroom.
By the way, Ruhin, right now, as you know, everybody has those meeting note taker stuff.
Yes.
So whatever you speak before people join.
I didn't add any of them. I didn't add any of them before you say
Okay,
anything.
great.
I always reject those note takers.
Honestly, I've come to realize he does this
Ah,
every
fuck.
time he's the first to join a meeting. I see no note takers.
If I join first,
I try to do the same thing, by the
Yeah.
way.
Actually, I'm realizing our client doesn't have note takers,
which is smart, man. يعني انت you cannot imagine my email. If I have 80 emails, 30 or 40 of them are all note takers.
Do you want to do something fun? Join a call 5 minutes earlier than everybody. All of your note takers will join early. And then start talking like ridiculous stuff. Say the recipe for the perfect shawarma is. And then the meeting note that will be sent by all of them will include shawarma as the first headline.
Thank you for giving me ideas.
I don't think that they check their.
Now that's the funny part. No one's checks it. They just added. I don't know. Maybe it's like the new trend. The client is here. Behave. مرحبا.
Hey guys, how are you?
لا عبد الكريم كيفك؟
How are you?
Good, thank you. Sorry, just 1 minute on it.
Take your time. طارق شو اخبارك؟ انا مشتاق.
I'm gonna share my screen.
No, Bob. Bob, don't do it. You're better than that.
I won't share my screen underneath it. Does it look big enough, like the report?
Wallahi, because the client is here, I'm gonna answer properly. Yes, it looks big enough.
Hey, answer properly. Answer properly. I know. My brain literally knew.
كيفك؟
أنا أستاذ ربيع.
اشتقتونا ولا لا؟ يا وعبد الله كمان، كيفك يا عبد الله؟
اشتقتونا ولا لا؟ والله نص نص.
نص نص؟
أنا والله ربيع. الله ربيع ضغطاني فيها. أنا فاهم. حبيبي يا ربيع. أنت اللي قدرت. الحمد لله.
فعليا يس بالضبط.
والله مش قادرين نقدر اللي كنا فيه هيك بس تكون بعد اشتغالي بعدين كنا يا بس
It took a week to go back to a normal sleeping schedule. That week was hell.
طيب I don't know عبدالكريم and Abdullah how you want to do this and I went through it unless you guys want to go through it I don't think there's a need. What I would love to look at is what I mentioned in the email possible Kubra. يعني a more granular look at the data related to games and engagement related to certain games because some of the results I saw were a bit surprising.
There's a we can instantly jump there. Does anybody want to go through any of the other points?
And to be honest, I didn't have the chance to look at the word test on stage, so I'll go with the blue and if there's any questions, I'll do that.
If you want, Mohammed, I can do like a 10-15 minute run through it all, and then everything else be dedicated to socials.
Let's do that, yes.
Right. So the report, guys, is broken down into basically 8 sections. There will be a follow-up as well as a key learnings report that'll be like recommendations and everything as discussed. But each section also includes some key learnings. So there's the executive summary, there's the season recap, which kind of gives a bit of a timeline of main important aspects of the season as itself, as well as pre-season communication, TDCs. Paid media overview, organic coverage, which looks only at the 7 to 8 week period of the event itself when it comes to organic coverage communication. An influencer snapshot, a small snapshot of the wider support with what was available most of the time. A conversational listening and a sponsor snapshot. The executive summary summarizes all the main performance headlines, so I'll go through it. This is kind of the event performance as a whole, so that's when you share it with IMO, it starts a bit with the full-on tournaments held, immersive experiences, prize pool generated, audience attended, prize pool leverage. And then we go instantly into the marketing campaign actions. How many digital ads ran? How many faces were used on average per 2-week bursts for 14 weeks non-stop? The number of social posts across organic platforms, number of influencer collaborations, the number of TV and radio spots. Then we go instantly to the summary of the performance. We had 253 million digital audiences reached, 1.6 billion total impressions, 21.3 million total engagements, and 3% over organic social media engagement rate. I know that would be a happy one for Abdullah. 102,000 followers gained, 1.1 billion total video views, 465,000 social conversation size, 61 potential out-of-home overall reach, which means audiences above the age of 18 across all out-of-home markets. 61% of them are estimated to be the overall reach. 160 million estimated influencer views and 12.1 million total clicks. Summary of organic as a whole, and this analyzes.
Yeah, just one thing. Another thing I would love to have is recommendations on certain things. And typically, organic social media, great percent. As a percentage looks fine. But if you look at it from an absolute volume of engagements, is it good or not? And right now, we posted so much on our social channels that some of the posts, yeah, sometimes you see them, they get 10, 15 likes. So
Yeah, a couple of comments. There's a lot of growth across the board, but there are areas to grow that I will include only in the key learnings report because I assumed you'd rather keep those primarily in the.
When I look at this, when I see what we do, the first thought I get is, did we post too much? Clear what you said, and I would love to look at that second.
100%. The thing is, a good answer for me would be, we genuinely, if the percentage of posts total was lower than the higher than the percentage of growth across these two other metrics, then I'd say we posted too much. But that is not the case. What is the case is there is content that can be optimized further. So content, for example, that I wouldn't have posted on X, that I get on TikTok, stuff like that, and then a margin of 10% content that will always be duds because you need to have duds because some things will be skipped by the algorithm. But as a whole, this took a lot to calculate because we needed to compare apples to apples. So I redid the 2024 analysis to compare because the platforms themselves yearly change how they calculate metrics. And we had a minimum of a 57% growth in organic impressions and a minimum of 86% growth in social engagements. While we only posted an extra 31% more as a whole. And that basically means our engagement per post grew, which is what we want.
But
So our engagement.
Bob, if I may add something here, if we're comparing to last year, this comparison is taking into consideration the 5 months that we took over the account, while last year it was active for the period of 2.5 months. So this is also a metric that we need to keep in mind when we're looking at those numbers.
100%. So this year, in fact, we optimized the posting and the amount of posts we posted more during the event. I'll get to that as well. But there'll be a separate, we'll need to have 2 or 3 different sessions for each part of the key learnings. One alone just for organic. Some of the main highlights this year included 172% increase in organic Instagram content impressions and 102% increase in engagements on Instagram, 81% increase in TikTok engagements, and we had weekly viral videos, and 70% increase in X interactions, and 38% increase in impressions. Earned social media performance is a new KPI. Basically, it looks at the performance of content that tagged us, not mentioned us, tagged us, and our account was active. We had 1.3K audience posts on Instagram with 951,000 engagements. We had 40,000 profile mentions on X with 100,000 engagements, and we had 80,000 direct DMs to our accounts, which is really good earned media.
This is correct, because there is a lot of requests
These are the ones that tagged us
upon
that we
demand
can
from the client.
confirm.
Exactly. And I don't
Yeah,
know
these
so
are
so I didn't know. And
yes,
once we
yes,
delivered,
yes.
we will add the
Only
intermediate with the third party together.
not EWC and not EWCAR, just tagging EWC Festival. We leveraged some unique media bursts this year, like the market's first augmented reality Snapchat lens map with on-ground utility, the first 3D billboard placement in the KSA, launched our own WhatsApp chatbot, and the conversation regarding the brand really grew, and it grew in a very well way when we go down to the social listening algorithm. Everything else.
Don't mean to cut you off, Bob. Just being Bob, please, we need a version of this that is basically, let's call it shareable on social media. يعني بنشوف مثلا نبعد مع ابو ادم نشوف ايش المتركس اللي ممكن نطلعها وايش المتركس اللي ممكن بس نخليها percentages increases or whatever. Okay, because the numbers in those reports are very interesting. You know, fast and posts of it, maybe around
Muaz can go out with something, Abu Adam can go out with something else. يعني it creates a very good content overall for EWC. What do you think about it?
Yes, absolutely. Well, I highly recommend doing festival as its own post, not like combining it with the total big one that WC and
Okay, let's have something ready. We discuss it.
لا هي كيكه ذوي لو ورد
The other sections I'm not going to go through it in detail. This is the season's recap that basically looked at our pre-event campaigns, just to give you a bit of visibility on how each campaign functioned. A recap of the films with one of the with what each kind of like campaign film did or performed and how, and the main highlights of it. For example, the mid-season campaign that was done with spaces, how much organic impressions it generated, how much organic engagements, what direct impact it had. We looked at KPIs beyond just your typical screening ones.
لا هو في عندك فعليا شيء بنستعمل فيه ثيرد بارتي عشان نعمل في شيء بنستعمل عشان CGI نجيب CGI بس I do believe هي 15 هيك شيء وهي عباره عن 3 مرات 4
الشهر 15
لا
كأورجانيك I think it's well given in the season خلص. I think we reached organically 600k views عليها. But we would like to put the numbers in the report. Yeah, it's 600k organic views, 104 retweets, and 850 likes. لا الفيوز 600k.
Once we have a third party post, we will not have an interview because it was already booked. I don't know.
هلا if you want to jump in here عبدالله هلا it's not a fair comparison Muhammad. It's not apple to apple لأنه the mid-season campaign it had a lot of things featured in the PVC itself and we managed to leverage for them to retweet it, outreach it, make our page to their pages. فهذه it helped us organically to generate more views on it and impressions.
هم نجيبهم اصلا نجيب فيوز اكثر وعدم يعني الفيديو الاخير ما في ولا احد مشهور الا مثلا مواقع مان بالانترنت في ثاني اللي هو
ما تعادل ال 10900
يعني كلهم ناس مو معروفين مره حتى الفولورز اللي عندهم
يعني لا
يعني جتهم بس لانه familiar face rather than انه
يعادل 156 تشكيل 10900
الامباكت تبع الفولورز تبعينه لانه يعني الفيديو الاخير ما كان في مستعد It's way cheaper than the mid-season one. Let's do a cost comparison, guys. I'll tell you how much it costs compared to the one. I'll give you the cost for one of them, and we can have
هذا هو انه في 15000 should be deducted should credit from the
ربين عنده cost اصلا.
عندي كورس الأول مش الثاني.
Yes. Okay.
Again, we're gonna have like a key learnings that focuses on, for example, cost ROI more and more, but that takes time during the month of September. But one thing to note here is I took the KPIs associated with the objective of each campaign, and those are the KPIs we measured. So 2026 created a post-event spike, which in the 2 days after the event, when the conversation dies down,
have
here,
to be good with each one.
you have your total broken down here. Anytime you see a comparison, it's because data is complex.
هتبدأ من صفر.
Anytime you don't see a comparison, data cannot be compared. And it's cannot be compared because of changes in how the platform calculates the data or a new KPI that is being measured this year that was not measured last year. Those are the two primary situations. You have achievement percentage, which basically means how much of the KPI was achieved compared to the goal of how much we initially had. Of course, that was a huge skyrocket, and we still had year-on-year total growth this year thanks to the optimization that was done, despite like reductions in digital budgets. Overall, we also had a very good click-through rate, and that translated across all the platforms. The total digital reach achieved was stupendous in terms of year-on-year. The achieved page views was high in terms of year-on-year, and we have the potential out-of-home and TV and radio reaches. Unduplicated means unique audiences. Approximate and estimated is due to the fact that this isn't an exact science coming from these suppliers. We just wanted to make sure never to say something is fact when it's approximation. But this is the minimum approximation, so there's potentially for it to be even higher. But we keep the most transparent numbers. Then out-of-home media is broken down. You have it broken down for everything, so that when we go into cost or when we go into assessment of each kind of like exposure segment on its own, we keep that there. And then per platform.
Sorry, Bob, I have a question. Now, regarding the out-of-home, this includes the latest campaign of NDSC and includes also CU 2026 campaign, correct?
Right. Right here. Okay. CU 2026 and GST.
Okay, great.
And then we go into digital platforms. You have a summary slide for each digital platform and top-performing ad campaigns per platform. We've done this for every digital platform. Go through it in detail because it will take a lot of time to go through it. A lot of great things were done per platform to optimize it or leverage it. So, for example, using X for its intended purpose, looking at things from a different perspective of visibility, where we needed to optimize CPMs and CPCs the most occurred, where we needed to leverage it more on a visibility because it's a Saudi-led platform occurred. Achievement percentages also gave an indication of success on different metrics. This really is an in-depth look at how well paid media performed this year. Then there's the two case studies for the out-of-home.
Just a general comment. In 2026 audit, we will need to optimize it. And we will need, I think, to create the same effect of being everywhere, but with less money and probably by really a smaller duration. يعني أنا إحنا بلشنا in May with some sort of a campaign, and then we started growing right after 8th of June. We just need to be smart to try to create a similar effect of taking over Riyadh, but by optimizing a lot.
Maybe about that if we start by end of June, for example, instead of starting in May. As you know, this year we had to do this for certain reasons. So maybe if we optimize and start, we push the timeline from starting in May to starting in, let's say, mid-June, ramping up to July. I think that would be good, and it will optimize the usage and the budget as well.
A good way of doing this, guys, is you have the average per 2 weeks, weekly phases, and then you have in the breakdown each phase how much total phases it used, and the durations of each phase broken down here. Just in terms of how we showcase everything. Of course, and the team will carry that over.
The note is very clear, Muhammad and Abdullah. Again, we're going to decide on green planet based on the direction where we're going to start, based on MENA market versus Saudi, how we're going to tackle it for next year. But the note is very clear.
I'm gonna. engagements are the number found here. This is reach, and this is impressions. And then you have certain a slide that gives you more insights per platform. So here, for example, it was about the media type differences. You'd be surprised in how much, for example, our photos and our carousels, because they include updates, they included towards week 2, we optimized and decreased the amount of content we posted on UGC, for example, or just generic snapshots of people, and made them all coverages of important things and leaderboards. And that made photos spike in their average engagement per media type. Photos became very shareable because they were all leaderboards, they were all celebrity visits, they were utility content that people shared with each other, which is something we want to even double down on more in the platforms to go. We want to reduce certain postings of reels, for example, on Instagram. In the beginning, we were posting a lot between certain platforms, and then we started to reduce more and more video content for Instagram, keeping it unique for TikTok. So the total posts, it is necessary to keep the same amount of total posts, but where content goes live, total posts being unique assets created, not the number of posts across platforms. Unique assets created is the right amount, I'd say. You might even need more, but you might need to optimize how much that asset goes live on different platforms. And this is something we're doing as a recommendation. You have the best performing content per week in this section as well. Sometimes it will show you an interesting fact regarding what content performed best. Then you have X as well.
I think the next recommendations, I also need from you to study the embassy. I need you to make this a product of its own.
We're already looking at it from that lens, and we're also looking at what drove more impact on embassy performance. But this is again, it takes a bit of time because we're not being able to segment it via tools. This is all being done manually. So we're looking at it via Excel sheet for itself.
Not necessarily sport. What worked well, and what helped us certificate, what helped us generate more views and engagement on esports events. That's also very important.
100%. Everything that you see got the social listening report, we're also doing that. So that's basically it on organic. As you can see, X being the platform of news for the statics was insane. We realized that X should serve our utility platform of news sharing and updates and information along the season. Then you have TikTok coverage. I'd like to point out that this is our minimum engagement rate. There's a potential that our engagement rate is even higher, but because whenever we boost, we need to do a manual estimation. We always do it on the lower end, not the higher end, to keep things transparent. But I'm sure we're above 3% engagement rate. But we keep the lower end just to be transparent. It had the highest average engagement per post as well. TikTok was a hero this year. And we had a really nice diversity in what worked best. It wasn't all just CCP and CCLs. Week 5, we got, Abdullah will be happy regarding this, for example. We had this as one of the top performing contents on TikTok, the film, and certain key insights per platform. Influencer snapshot, as you know, we tried our best to include as much data regarding influencers that is true. So we've included it. One of the most important insights is
one of the things regarding influencers, guys. Please let's look into them closely regarding who brought the most ticket sales, who brought the most clicks and stuff like that. Because I know that this can be optimized really well next year. I know this year we used a lot of influencers, and that's good for awareness. But next year maybe some of them need to be docked, or at least we know that they're not really effective, or their effect is small. We can tell them based on our statistics, we will give you this amount instead of this amount, things like that, just to optimize this side for next year.
100%. The only issue I'd say is that because
want to also look into. This can be taken from what's her name? From Nabil or I forgot her name, Steve. So we can see how many clicks we are getting per influencers.
We'll request that and get back to you.
Thank you.
And then wider support. We wanted to include as much visibility for IMO guys regarding the wider support, but we at the same time, because we don't have performance data, we have none of those. We kept the main highlights. Needed
So
wins.
this is influencers. Well, I think next year
Yeah.
we put a bit more strategy about influencers. I mean, this year we just looked at big names and we brought them, and that's it. We need a bit more storytelling with the influencers. We need some sort of something that makes sense with the influencers, some sort of campaign that tells something. And the more كل واحد بس يطلع يجي يسوي this is so cool, I came. We need a bit more storytelling, a bit more meaning around it.
Definitely. We have more time period for planning. We'll ensure across me, Abdullah, and Levan will coordinate for even more time this year. So wider support, we're good with it, and then social listening. Okay. Social listening is our baby this year. It's 70 slides, the full presentation, and we wanted to have as much insights for when we do the learnings aspect. I read your questions, Mohammed, and I'll answer them directly. There's an answer for everything. The beginning of the as you guys know, social listening looks at X and news. We cannot look at other platforms because they're not publicly sharing their data. So this looks at the platform in which the users typically create opinion-based content the most. On the other platforms, we look at UGC and tags because those are the only things, not mentions. So when we're looking at the performance of certain things, when it comes to the final report regarding games, for example, you'll be comparing the metric of how much conversation it generated on X, how much engagement it generated on social media for your own content, and how much, for example, efficiency it had or whatever when the baby is doing their specific report as well. And then you compare those three variables together when making the decision. Here, there is one major KPI you're looking at when you're analyzing social listening, which is impact on brand visibility. What does that mean? Basically, when we were analyzing different conversations, I'm going to jump directly to that section, just because this is going to take like a good chunk of conversation. So, going to add subsections because scrolling is hard. Yeah, here. Okay. Valorant being the top, Valorant being the second top in mentions and the first top being Street Fighter 6, okay, is a very big insight. But when we say top, what do we mean? So we can't just, for example, assess Street Fighter 6 as a term, right? Because if I do that, then I will be modeling the data with a lot of Street Fighter 6 content X does not necessarily mean this is underperformed. So I wouldn't say this is the
1.1 thousand mentions in Arabic. Well, how do you know this is EWC and related specifically to the Arabic small accounts?
Okay, so the main thing is so when we go to the total conversation size here, the main way we know that how we assess and our data is, if you want, accurate, we see how big of the chunk went to Saudi Arabia, right? So most of the demographics analyzed shown that the majority of the conversation we've found occurred in Saudi or from Saudi, which means that our data is, like, our key term analysis is more accurate than not. And the second thing we do is we do not assess on its own the game. Because if I did that, then it's marketing. So we assess the intersection of terms or words or keywords or factors, basically, that intersect with the brand. But we cannot remove, for example, EWC 2025, because we use it and people use it when talking about us, even, and this is tournaments oriented, so we want to assess the tournaments element within the region. But it's safe to say, because when you look at the mentions being only 8,800 and take into account the broadcast element, we might have a few of these mentions intersect with, let's say, if the international team do a social listening report, and then we have our own unique mention size. And that's basically how you do social listening. This is the most accurate we could get it to this year. Next year, I mean, we're looking at even ways of optimizing it further, but it is as accurate as we could get it. That's why the numbers are like low compared to the game, because as we look at UGC pertaining to League of Legends on its own, or for example, Faker, content pertaining to Faker on his own would be higher. But this is content pertaining to all key terms relating to League of Legends and EWC events. So this section shows you how much each event created on X and on news mentions and visibility for the brand. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but I still don't understand how FC is so low.
Okay, so my right now during the key learnings, my main theory is that FC just isn't talked about on X, because we saw surges in performance on the other platforms. So again, remember, this is X, and
I just have a small question. When we listen to FC, we look into the term FIFA, because a lot of people still call it that, even though the branding has changed and it's not FIFA anymore. But a lot of people still think it's a FIFA game. So did we look into that term as well?
I believe so, but we looked into it in terms of FIFA X EWC. So basically,
Yes, exactly.
this isn't all the mentions of FIFA. FIFA has a lot more mentions during the event, but this is mentions of FIFA X EWC.
Exactly. That's what's important.
Yeah. So I would say, for example, that FIFA, for example, had maybe a higher user-generated content count than some of the other platforms. But one of the interesting things that we learned this year is the storyline of the club championship had one of the biggest impacts. Why do you think Street Fighter is the #1 game? Anyone has a theory? It's when the elimination of Liquid occurred and subsequently gave the crown to Falcons. So Street Fighter became the top mention, not because of the game itself on its own, but because this is when Liquid got eliminated.
It's because of the context that this happened, in the context of the things that happened with the game, right?
more on esports level than we have in previous year. And that gave an indication that we're priming an audience segment to keep up more and associate more the esports element with our brand. The biggest thing is that EWCAR, for example, gets the lion's share of tournament-based mentions and conversations. And this is the thing.
Street Fighter in the ranking.
Street Fighter is number 1. So this is number 1, this is number 2, and then this is number 3 in Zoom.
This is going to be a very important statistic to be shared with the IMO. So please, let's prepare some sort of a case study about this and make it ready, because I think they would love to have that and show it to the smart minds.
For everything game related, I'd wait until we have all the data from all available aspects, and we'll prepare like one thing maybe as a key learning for a game. This is just social listening on X, and I'm realizing, without that context in mind, someone can read the slide and measure the performance of the game on its own as a whole.
I'm talking about having a case study about Street Fighter in EWC, not in general.
But in relation to the fact that this spiked because Liquid losing and the club championship being announced.
It doesn't matter.
After Street Fighter.
Yeah, basically during Street Fighter, Liquid lost. Because Liquid lost, they were no longer possibly going to overtake the club. They were going to overtake Falcons.
Yeah, but what does that have to do with Street Fighter being the number 1 talked about game?
So people were following that game a lot more locally because they knew that depending on how Liquid performed in that game, Falcons would be the club champion or not. Or if Falcons was confirmed.
So what you mean is this is driven by the popularity of Falcons and Liquid?
Not only the popularity of Falcons and Liquid, but more on this game يعني this tournament كانت will determine شو راح يصير the EWC in terms of who's going to be winning and what not.
And regardless, it's an interesting statistic.
Definitely.
So let's, as I mentioned, let's look into that.
For sure. Okay. Other aspects that we analyze, for example, is arena mentions or venue mentions on their own. SNB had more mentions, but it's also because of where is it? There was SNB's promotional contests. So the contests they did really helped them increase visibility. So the efforts that the venue themselves took or the sponsor themselves took really mattered during the event itself. So none of us expected SNB to have more mentions, but the moment you add a tag me campaign or a reply campaign to a competition to it, Saudis instantly run. So
regarding this, we would like to also make something, and I will talk to François about this. Maybe also Abu Adam here will have, I'm taking your opinion as well. Regarding this, can we please make sure to have some sort of a case study or something that we can tell sponsors and partners that the more effort you put into creating an amazing experience for the audience in EWC, the better ROI you will get. Because this is very important for them to basically encourage them to spend more, have nicer
answer booths, brainstorm about better activities, come up with nicer things to do, and this will end up improving our offering of entertainment and whatnot. And at the same time, they will get a better ROI given this statistic that you just mentioned, Mark.
For sure, we'll look into all the factors, but the main insight here is S&B Arena had 3 events, so that drove a lot, but the competitions as well drove a lot. So sometimes, for example, take Hilton. So this is a case study, for example, for sponsors like Hilton and Saudiya. When you don't have a big physical presence in our event, or you're not offering a lot of physical experiences in our event, digital experiences are an equivalent. So that was one of the most interesting insights here. So S&B dominating, for me, dimensions is important. Another one, for example, is content creator.
It's the other way around. So it's dominating dimension because they have nice experiences on the ground. So the online experience does not replace the experience on the ground.
In S&B's particular case, the online competitions they did with giveaways and wins drove a lot of dimensions, the shared mentions, as well as the free access arenas. But the learning always is the moment you offer a competition or a prize, that dominates everything. That's like one-on-one in terms of audiences in the BCC. They really like those competitions globally. Everyone likes competitions and prizes and everything. But we all also, of course, the more physical experiences you offer, the more free of charge experiences you offer, the more giveaways and wins you offer, all of that matters.
I think about the previous point on the games. I think what you're saying is the big learning, and we need to double down on championship stories and stories of derbies and rivalries. And this, within the strategy for 26, I think you will need to implement that in a comprehensive way. يعني مثلا, if we target 5 key markets in MENA and we say that based on ticket sales, it's Egypt, Jordan, Kuwait, whatever else, then we probably need to find ways to tell the story that the teams qualifying and competing at EWC from those countries. And we need to also embed that. When I was talking about storylines with influencers, but we need to definitely have a layered strategy for influencers. Where some influencers who are endemic will tell the story of the rivalries and the competition, and give regular updates and show how crazy things are and how intense they are. From this learning, we really need to embed this competition storytelling within the different tools, marketing tools that we have.
100%. There's still a lot of learnings being taken, and once we have all of them into account, the planning this year will focus a lot more on those aspects. This goes on for, like we said, venues, for example, esports embassy, for example. So this is something unique. The venues are not something that get talked about a lot on X, except typically to complain or ask questions, because they generate UGC. So, for example, when you look at Japan Park from the lens of mentions of Japan Park and EWC, they're low. When you look at UGC as in user-generated content videos of Japan Park, they're high. And the main learning we have is basically people complain at us and ask us questions when it comes to the physical aspect of the event as the primary form of engagement with us on X. And we need to find ways to drive more
including myself, every Saudi person I know goes to X to, it's the fastest way to reach any company. And a lot of companies use X as one of the main ways of customer service. For example, Gia and Riyadh Season, they do that as well. X and Twitter is they take a lot of complaints from there, and they raise tickets and stuff like that. So I think this is normal in the context of because we focus mostly on Saudi. Once we start going out into more of MENA region, I think we will start seeing more of Facebook or Facebook Messenger kind of it will take people there to basically do complaints and stuff like that from other MENA region.
100%. Keeping in mind that we had more positive than negative on X, which is good, a lot more. We also have another recommendation, which is to start training our audiences to communicate with us regarding complaints on private communication channels more. And one of the solutions for that, for example, that came from the paid media team is that WhatsApp chatbot can grow to become a way to centralize those things through that tool instead of on public forums. So that's one of our other learnings for community management, for example, is maybe next season because now we already have it in place and everything, we push the chatbot more and our DMs more early on in the season as our go-to for communication. Because Kojima, for example, we all know that the negative sentiment that rose at the time regarding it. Concerts were another big learning. So concerts on their own had a lot of mentions. But then when you look at it from the lens of how much mentions to the brand with the concerts occur, they're lower than what they're worth. So this is why our biggest insights for this is that, for example, concerts next year or Middle East needs to give us more of a branding presence, of an esports context to the concerts themselves. This gives us insight into that.
Concerts ايش قصدك؟
Concerts.
ايوه هل احنا قاعدين نتكلم عندنا two types of concerts. احنا كان عندنا our collaboration مع Middle East. Are we talking about that ولا
collaboration مع Middle East؟
كان
لا, that's everything.
بس لا let's focus on collaboration with Middle East.
Middle East and Gia.
Yeah, this includes Kairoki, Marwan Musa.
Okay, yes. So
Middle East, I need to be very transparent regarding this as well. The conversations regarding the artists coming from Middle East are very hard to dissect because on any given day, Quavo, Black Eyed Peas, etc., will have their own mentions. So the only way I can look at it is from the lens of EWC mentions with these artists. I can never look at the mentions of these artists on their own at all and see spikes at all that might indicate potential on the brand. So it's important to note that there is a bigger impact that these things have, even the tournaments, even those. But we're particularly what we can measure is mentions of EWC in these conversations.
طيب سؤال بس بابا احنا we take into consideration statistics والارقام اللي من Middle East. Do we have access to that, or if we don't, do you want me to request it from Middle East? Would that be fruitful for us?
Yeah, basically any report that we've yet to receive, the moment I received, I incorporated into our key learnings. This is only one of those reports. So look at it only as the social listening report pertaining to EWC because esports nerd is very different than indie gaming. And you saw that in the amount of passion that Hideo Kojima brought, including myself, for example. It is a big subculture to target with experiences that will bring them in, particularly. Kaka and Ronaldo, again, this is something that drove a lot of user-generated content on TikTok and on Instagram, but still drove a good amount of conversation on the platform, particularly asking questions, reflecting, commenting on how cool it is, news sites creating content about it, and questions.
طب بوب معلش انا هقاطعكم سريعا لانه I believe by الدقيقة او I don't know اذا محمد انت you still have more time or you want to dive deep into any important discussions.
We're done with social listening, by the way. This is it.
لا خلاص I think it would be really important to look into learning. And in any case, because this is the next year, the 2026 strategy, yeah, that's my only comment.
In case you guys have any questions regarding the bigger report, reach out to me whenever, and I'll answer them as we go through it. There's a long version and a short version. Both are shared with you.
واحنا برضه من ناحيتنا انا بعت لكم الريكاب we're going to send the recap of this meeting just to ensure that all points are covered. Please let us know if we missed anything in that contact report, and we look forward for the next steps.
Thank you very much.
Keep us some empty seats at your office because we're still not used to working from our offices.
No worries. They don't even look in your office.
أنا والله يعني أنا people are still dumbfounded about seeing me in the office here in Kuwait.
روبين الله يخليك بس ممكن تقعد دقيقة بس بنخلص بالدقيقة معلش.
نقعد لك 5 دقايق كمان أعتقد.
روبين بدنا ما ننسى
عبد الله والله لسه ما عملت بالتي ورا عنب عارف وما نسف من عيوني محمد يعني هلا it's a smaller circle but it's easier to manage. Yes. من عين أبشر.
Save it until the planning stage when I need easier approvals.
No, I'll do it directly after عشان to fix whatever mistakes you find. لا بس والله بنظبطها فعليا بدها اكلت نفسها بس خلينا نشوف. انا by the way next week and the week after I'm gonna be on leave بس Pascal is gonna be back and either Kubra or Adham are gonna be here. Also Kubra might be here. لا محمد اسمع انا وكوبرا whoever talks to us والله العظيم we flipped in the office so I think me and Kubra we heavily need the break. I'm speaking on behalf of Kubra also. We're gonna give you Adham as yeah. اسمع we're gonna give you Adham as يعني إذا بدك كرهينة عم نرجع. Do with him whatever you want. يعني ما بعرف يعني ممكن ارجع الاقيه صار بيعرف يلعب اصير اعمل تحدي وانا مرتاح شوي. عبد الله طيب قبل ما تضحك انه غريبه نفسك بالفيفا اللي حسسني انك انت اللي اخترعتها. لا انا موجود عمالي بتخانق بس.
اهلا وسهلا انا فريق
انت طبعا معلمك طارق منيح.
يلا بس لما تسوي منسف بدي طارق بس يشد لنا المره الجايه.
انا مش هعلق عشان ما يزعل مني طارق بعدين لانه فشلني قدام الناس. اوف تم الهياط.
من اليوم بدنا ننزل.
يلا يعطيكم العافيه جميعا.
يلا يعطيكم العافيه.
عبد الله انا معك. عبد الله بدك اي حاجه؟ يلا.
ايوه بس دقيقة.
بحدود ال 750 780 هيك شيء.
الايميل بكم مليون؟
ما انت في الانفلونسرز اللي شفناهم بعدين وفي شويه اشياء ضاربه
مين اللي جبناه بعدين؟
اللي هو على الفيلم
مين اللي دفعتوا لهم معلش؟
اللي هم اللي الفيلم استخدمناهم 25 ب 10 وفي عندك اشياء ثانيه في عندك ديتيل ريبورت فيها ماشي مهم.
طيب اوكي يعني باقي 700,000 يعني ما عندي اذا
ديسمبر لا
ايه
وفعليا اذا بنمدها لديسمبر عبد الله ما حينفع لازم كونتراكت جديد لانه هلا انا حتى هاي ال 500 بشهرين على الكويشنز اللي عمالها تنطلب I started regretting انه ممكن نحتاج more people بس I'll manage ال 500 اللي حاطينها هلا يعني بغطيها وبعدين نعمل الار اف بيز العالم الناس تطلع فيها بس it's not fair انه نطلع فيها
بديت تجيني
والله ما بقول لك ولا شيء في عندك كل شيء نو كلين سليت بيني وبينك في عندك انت بالكونتراكت الاول في عندك ال 60 70 اللي هي نفس ما هي الكونتراكت الثاني بس هذا اللي بيستهلك الانفلونسرز والبارتي كفرج.
طيب التوتال من كل الكونتراكتس كان يبقى
انا لسه اليوم طالع ريبورت من الفاينانس
يعني اكثر من
في عندك 790 انا بحكي من غير فات 790 وفي عندك واحد في 60 تقريبا من غير فات ما تنسى انا وياك نحكي فات يعني قول يعني لساتنا بحدود المليون يعني بس ما فات هلا بحسب لك اياها بالضبط ما فات والله ما لي اياها والله ما اشوف
مع الفات حوالي مليون
هلا بحسب لك اياها بالضبط قد ايه 987 ضايل معاه
including VAT
اللي هو including VAT ابعث لك اياها
ابعث لي اياها هلا
بس ما تنسى بدك تطلع على اللي فوق واللي تحت هذا التو كونتراكتس صح؟
في مشكله يعني بس اللي باقي بعدين نقدر نظبطها
خلص حبعث لك اياها هاي فيها خلص ببعث لك اياها هلا
كم بس عشان انا الحين احصل على كم 900 وكم
900 بدك بالضبط هلا انا عم بحسب
لا تصدق انت احيانا تحسب اشياء بعدين تطلع عشان ما تجي فين
عشان لانه خلص حطيت لي اياها حرام ما حطيت لي معك بدك الهلالات ولا من غير؟
لا من غير يعني
معك 987,883 طيب
ثانية دقيقة
والله
ايوه بليز اكتب لي اياها
ايوه وهذا
ارجوك شكرا
يعني قول 84 بدل 83 بالاخر
يعني اوكي
ريال
mucho gracias شكرا جزيلا على يعني خدمتك القصة
والله يعني بدي ايش بدي اقول لك انكسر ريال هذا يا عبد الله هو القشه اللي كسر الظهر البعيد وهو بعد باي ذا واي هي مربوطه لكريس كمان وانت على
ممتاز خلاص اوكي
هذه اسمع هذه هي البندنج انفويسز اللي ضايله كمان بدنا نحكي عنها في واحده طلعت اليوم اللي هي تبعت سبتمبر انفويسز وحتى قلت لهم انا في لسه يعني في ممكن تطلع واحده زياده فيها 21,000 هذه تبعت الجيفويز لسه مديري بالهدف تبعها بس لانه ابو عبد الله لازم يعطي ابروفل عليها عشان تعرف ابو عبد الله لازم يعطي ابروفل عليها والايميل بس ابو عبد الله طلع على بيرسونال ليف عنده ايمرجنسي ابو عبد الله اللي هو عبد العزيز ماشي بس امضينا مع الشباب من الداخليه
اوكي بس احنا المهم بعد ما في معي بعد كل ما ادفع كل شيء لو اليوم انا دفعت لك كل الفلوس اللي علي حيتكلم 947,774 صح؟
100%
اوكي ممتاز
اعذروني على التاخير، كنت هلا بديت مع كده بالسي. SMC, we're working on Kuba على social media. إن شاء الله we're just I'm waiting to finalize the pricing this week to get a confirmation if we're on budget or not from my contacts.
عندنا سبل مع فهد.
سبل we lost it. Yes.
بالنسبه ل SMC نحن اليوم ب8 الشهر.
Yes.
وعندي فيها نشوف اتليست نعمل طريقه انا وياك اتليست نشوف الفيرست درافت يعني يكون معكم بالموضوع.
طيب. طيب. اوكي.
include me closely انت وكبرى وخلينا نعرف وين عم تصير وكيف عم تفكروا فيه. خلينا let me see exactly how it's done.
طيب just to give you a quick update on the rules. بالنسبة ل SMC, the thing that we need to submit is the strategy slides that we requested from Osama. But Osama, due to the workload that he has, he can only deliver it on the 14th. And our submission was on the 15th.
أنا بخاف عليه كي يبعث السبمشن بال14 بس هو الشغل اللي احنا تبعنا شو في عندنا في استراتيجي شيء كثير جيدة؟
لا ما في كثير. That's strategy. This is social media. Yes, strategy on how we're planning to run the accounts.
كده نتأكد أول شيء أسامة إذا بيعطينا إياها على 14 ما تكون 14 end of day.
ضل ما عندك مشكلة حاضر.
اوكي هاي كثير مهمة. 14 ماكسيموم نون تايم.
ماشي.
إذا كانت كثير طويلة بدك شوي تعديل في العمل لأنه وصلنا anyway when he delivers the strategy usually it is 85 to 90% there.
مظبوط.
يعني ما
مظبوط.
بس إذا بحال يكون عندنا نظبط نسكر كل شيء يكون اللي نسكر.
Yes, خسرنا. We lost it ways. Do you want me to share some learnings or not appropriate at this stage?
لا خلينا نحكي learnings بعدين.
ماشي.
learnings بعدين بفضل نعمله learnings كمان حتى لما يجي باسكال لانه I think it needs to be in a bigger circle لانه مشكلته هذا المشروع ترمى يمين شمال كثير وبالاخير بطل عندنا وقت اصلا يعني بطل نغط فيه كمان اخر لحظه فخلينا نعملها بعدين.
ماشي.
اي واحد هذا بيتكلم عن
سبل 8.
8 هذا ما خسرنا
له ويز.
ايه
لانه صراحه عبد العزيز I think we were not very agile فيه يعني لما اجى سؤال من هون وسؤال من هون يترمى من واحد للثاني بعدين يترمى على راس روبين اخر لحظه وروبين كان قايل لنا لحد ما فينا كان مضغوط هو رجع بعدين احمد كلنا مدري يعني هالرقم يعني اضطر اخذه بس كان كله صار اخر لحظه يعني it was not ideal من يكونوا important stakeholders around الحكي.
صحيح بس انا انتم في فعاليه تعتبر بيع طوال ولا زياده كل الشغل تقريبا.
مظبوط ابو عبد الله، طولنا بس if I may add some point جورج ولا we leave it for later؟
لا let's leave it for later. This is a project that we always handle. لازم نحكي فيه، لازم نعمل فيه انواع، يعني هيك تجارب حرام تتكرر صراحه، لانه we have good chances. انا كنت بعرف انه احمد وسامي كان عندهم انه هاي كاسين وعندهم هاي potential to go good. يعني مصريين راحوا. We should not repeat such a mistake. اوكي طيب وشو اللي بعده
طيب بس RCRC مين الكلاينت يا فهد؟ عبد الرحمن. عندك انسايتس تعرفوا منيح ولا لا؟
هو اصلا بي اي بس. لا ولا شو؟ لا على الاستديو الابداعي اللي يسمون وحافظ عليه. مين ريسكو احمد؟ ايه في حدا بيشتري عليه. اوكي
سلمنا هذا الاسبوع السمسية في المصر امس، وSMC ميديا باينك مع أونج، وهذا مجلس الصحة ما جانا على لسه أي رد، فبنسوي معهم فولو اب ونشوف جاينا من طرف واحد.
من طريق
ألا اوكي
في جانب معرفي نفسهم نفسه الغربية ما غير. لا هذا بسيط. هذا فيديو وين كانت نسينا. فبتقول انه ما مليون سبب. ممكن بسهل التأديب ما تقدرش. بس هي ما تقدم هاي قصص 50,000 و40,000. بس جانا عارفين فيه. هيداك اللي عارفين نقدم عليه قصص هيك صغيرة خليهم للكتيبة الصغيرة. لأنه نضيع وقتنا فيه وسجلنا بشتغلنا أكثر من فلوسه.
قدمنا كمان الهيئة العامة للإحصاء اللي هي ميديا باينز وكوميونتي، بس هذا آخر شيء قدمناه.
كان في بي اي كمان شيء.
صحيح.
يس بس هذه هنا.
طب سؤال، في ريتسي اجاني شيء منهم؟
ريتسي أساسك إيميل روبين كلمناهم قالوا لازم تجيكم دعوة من الشخص اللي جاي لكم في RFP، فإذا يرسل لنا دعوة على نيو بزنس راح نقدر نشوفها يعني.
طيب إذا ماشي هذا واحد.
على ايميل نيو بزنس حقنا.
انت هذا الكلام مشارك بالدكتور؟
يس من عندهم من ريتسي نفسهم. قفلنا لأن أعطينا شريك ثاني. بس